Okay, the July 9th, 2024 meeting of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission is called to order at 4:04 p.m. Could we do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Edwards,
Here.
Commissioner Lindquist, Chair Spillman,
Here.
Vice Chair Whittington,
Here.
Commissioner Francone,
Here.
Alternate Flatiger,
Here.
Alternate Mikado.
Okay, are there any revisions to the agenda?
Staff does not have any revisions to the agenda.
Any from the commissioners? In that case, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
It's good to approve the July 9th agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment on items not on the agenda? And no one from the public is online.
Correct.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the housekeeping items. CLG news.
I have not had a chance to review that, so I think there's a few pages in your packet.
Yeah, I believe it's the usual monthly email from Lindsay Llewellyn with funding opportunities, education and training, etc. Any questions or comments about any of that? If not, then we can move on to historic walking tour development. Stuart, any updates?
I have a meeting set up with Stephanie at the paper and myself and the app developer and potentially Joey for Thursday morning right now to let her go through and take a look and ask more specific questions about how the paper might monetize things a little bit. You know, we continue to be a little bit delayed by this potential partnership, so I think we're going to have to decide, and I've let Stephanie know it, that we need to decide pretty quickly whether we're going to move forward or not, so that we can, you know, get going on this. It's been delayed a couple of months, and I'm becoming a bit frustrated, and I'm ready to move on. So hopefully after Thursday, we'll have a few more answers, and she needs to get back with her management and just talk about how they feel comfortable sharing copywritten information with us to put into our tour. That's, I think, what the main holdup is.
Stuart, what time Thursday morning, please?
I don't have it inked in yet. I'm talking between Italy and Leadville, and so things are a little slow, but I think it's going to be probably like at 8 or 8:30 Thursday morning. I'll let you know as soon as we do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for staying on top of that, Stuart.
Well,
It's tough to keep things moving forward.
Slow couple months, so sorry about that.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions about the historic walking tour? Okay, then moving on to tax credit workshop discussion. After our previous workshop on researching your home, we talked about hosting a tax credit workshop sometime later this summer or early fall. And I know that Lindsay Llewellyn in her July newsletter here mentioned that the State Historic Preservation Office recently helped hold a tax credit workshop in Colorado Springs. And I've been in contact with someone in someone other than Lindsay who's at History Colorado, who said that she would be happy to come or to send somebody. So it seems as if we would have potentially represented or more than one representative from History Colorado if we want to hold a tax credit workshop to have people who know the ins and outs of the complicated tax credit process to help us out. And so I think mainly what we would need to do is figure out a date that would work for us and for people in town. potentially put that on.
What time of year are you thinking of doing
I had in mind like late summer, early fall, but that's just sort of. Yeah, that's very flexible.
Hey,
I
Scott,
think- Yes.
sorry if you mentioned
Yes.
this already, but are you thinking this is for residential or commercial or both?
In my mind, it would be residential and we would sort of jump off from the researching your home workshop that you and Jennifer organized. To then use that as a springboard, sort of now that you know how to research your home. Here's how you can use that research to then apply for tax credits, that sort of thing. But we could, if you think it would be useful to do commercial as well, we could do that. I just thought that the processes are different enough and target different enough audiences that we might want to specialize.
Yeah, I agree.
Although-
Maybe we do two of them then at some point. Do the commercial one next year.
Mhm.
So like the first HBC meeting date in September 10th?
That would be fine with me, cause then that would be after sort of the busiest season around here in terms of races and summer stuff.
I think I'm gonna be out of town that day. If we could do it later in the month.
Second meeting would be the 24th.
I've applied, and so I know the process, I could be part of the workshop if I'm here.
September is still building season here, so there would still be people that are looking at or in the process of projects.
Yeah, so we could
Definitely
potentially,
enough that it's not still crazy high season.
yeah, we could potentially get people who have done projects sort of in this season are still completing them, plus people who are planning for next year.
True.
And then the latter might be the most important because tax credits may, take some planning.
Yeah, they definitely.
Yeah, they typically want approval before you.
You want to get to their COA process and their building permit process.
You wanna reach out to History Colorado and see if September 24th would be an option?
And would we wanna do it sort of same style that we did for the Research Your Home, where we hold our meeting, then we started at, what did we do, 5 p.m.? And go till 7?
That seemed to work well before.
The only thought I, is 5 PM might push people for getting off work. I kind of, after we started that, thought maybe we should have done 5:30, but nobody complained and lots of people showed up, so maybe it wasn't an issue.
And can I chime in as somebody that does programming in the county, like definitely the fall, people don't shop in the summer, it's myself, we wanna be inside. And I think 5 o'clock, because it's like if people go home and then they have to leave home again, they're
Yeah.
not. Oh,
Yeah.
so those are my like, things that I.
Well, if it's 5 until 7, and they come a little bit late, you're not gonna miss a lot, or at least they can catch back up.
Yeah,
How about asking the people at History Colorado about the necessity of having two workshops? The processes aren't that different.
okay. Alright, yeah, cause they do mention that for the Colorado Springs, they did residential and commercial, so they might just have a presentation that they can do.
It might be different, the federal tax credits get a lot more complicated, and that might require a second one. But for state tax credits, there's really not a whole lot of difference between residential and commercial, so
Okay,
maybe they could focus on residential, but mention commercial if there are any obvious changes that need to be addressed.
okay. And then if we do that, I know Stuart, you and Jennifer seem to be very good at promotion, based on the results of our researching your home workshop. Would you be willing to, if we get this scheduled, then do similar promotion for this one?
Sure.
That was a lot, Stuart, he pushed it, he's like.
Yeah, Stuart seems to be very good at that. We'll take
And
advantage of
Stuart,
that.
if you can help with promotion, I can get the press release written again. Have it available for you.
I don't know if we heard you.
I don't think we heard you, so I'll let you repeat that.
Can you hear us?
Sure. That's okay, I'll text it. No
Okay. Okay, any other comments or thoughts on, the tax credit workshop? All right, if not, then I'll reach out to History Colorado with that date, September 24th at 5 p.m. and the question about residential and commercial as one workshop or separated, et cetera.
I just can't wait to tell city council about this. City council's gonna love that the HBC is doing, I told them that the HBC was gonna do additional workshops. And so I think a tax credit workshop is a great continuation of engaging the public, so awesome.
Fantastic, great. In that case, moving on to the Buckelman Residence, ADU COA. And Chapin, do I have a, script?
You know, there was a packet that Lori had prepared that, that's spread around. And I was assuming that was in there, but I did not check.
Okay, is it? Oh, this is gonna be,
That's the motion.
is it underneath that, did I get?
No,
Yeah.
I could,
The only other things are one that are just, about 8 copies of the printed packet.
need more copies of the printed packet?
No, the only other thing that was in that
Oh, okay.
packet here were these, and I don't think,
Do you remember the date of the packet, that had your script on it?
I'm not sure that it's been in an.
I'm gonna-
Usually it's just printed here.
I'm gonna print-
Okay, so it wouldn't be.
I'm printing it out right now
Okay,
and,
Where is it? Choose one hundred.
it's okay, I got it. The only thing is, Scott, is you probably have to fill in
okay.
the blank for this, that we used from a previous project.
Sort of ad lib.
Yes.
Or no.
That would be better than using.
Yeah. The planning and zoning is extreme, although this one,
Not this one, this is really long.
this one has become more extreme since we first started doing it. And I always felt as if we were repeating ourselves. That's
The one for county planning that I had to read last week, it's like 3 pages saying.
Yeah. Are you the chair? Planning?
No,
You said it.
so. And Heather has had a really bad case of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Well. It seems like what's going around again, it's taken everybody a long time to kick in.
With a not so cute wearing name, actually very cute, and it's full flooded.
Really? I hadn't heard that.
Like all black rolls, but yeah, I don't know why.
It definitely seems to. It seems to knock people down pretty good.
It's never for 8 years, Scott, before the flood. Somebody's used that.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll use that.
It's just like, okay.
Over the application. You just.
That's some PR here.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Scott Spillman and I'm chairperson of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission. This is a public hearing before the Historic Preservation Commission to consider a certificate of appropriateness application by Jeremiah 33-3 LLC, John and Dorcas Buckelman, requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the installation of an accessory unit at the property known as 202 West 8th Street. When the public hearing is opened, I will first attend to some preliminary housekeeping matters. I'll then ask for staff to discuss highlights of the staff report, followed by advisory member comments, followed by the applicant to make a brief presentation of his or her proposal, followed by public comments from members of the public in attendance. The applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal, which is the applicant's opportunity to respond to any comments made by members of the public. After rebuttal, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and allow commissioners an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and staff. Once the public comment portion of the hearing is closed, we will not accept additional public comments unless it is in response to questions posed by the commission with the applicant. Staff will have an opportunity for clarification or rebuttal, which is staff's opportunity to respond to any comments made by the applicant or members of the public. At the conclusion of our questioning, the Historic Preservation Commission will deliberate and render a recommendation to City Council or decide to continue the hearing. A recommendation will be forwarded to City Council for a public hearing. City Council will make a decision on July,
Would be July 16th.
at 6 P.M. during the regular City Council meeting. This public hearing is quasi judicial, which means that we have to follow certain procedural requirements to establish a record. For this reason, it is important that when you speak, you identify yourself and your physical address. Are there any questions about the public hearing procedure?
No.
Thanks. Hearing none. Notice of this hearing is required to be published in the newspaper at least 15 days prior to tonight's meeting. In addition, the property must be posted and notification to all property owners within 200 feet of the property must be sent. Mr. LaChance, have these requirements been satisfied?
Yes, they have.
Evidence of notice is hereby made a part of the record, as are the application materials, the Leadville zoning ordinance, the Secretary of Interior standards for treatment of historic properties, any correspondence received prior to the published deadline and the reports of tonight's hearing, and any other documents, photographs, or other material introduced at the hearing. I will now open the public hearing for 202 West 8th Street, certificate of appropriateness for an accessory dwelling unit addition. Applicant John and Dorcas Buckland. At this time, I ask the Historic Preservation Commission to disclose any ex parte communication or conflict of interest with the applicants.
No.
Okay, none. Will staff please present the staff report highlights?
Good evening, everyone. For the record, I'm Alex Willis, 901 with the city of Leadville. I'm the project manager for the certificate of appropriateness application tonight, and I'm presenting the Balkan ADU. Up on the screen, I have kind of the main elevation I wanted everyone to see as I discuss the next section. The applicants propose to construct a second story on their existing garage, which is not a historical structure. The main house is a historical structure. The accessory garage is actually was actually built in the 1940s or so. The existing garage will be stripped back to the studs and foundation in order to build a new second story living space with exterior stair for access. The address, as Scott alluded to, is 202 West 8th Street. The applicants, John and Dorcas Buckland, they are the property owners. And for reference here, I have an image on the screen that shows via Google Earth image. The existing main Victorian house is up front on the property, and then farther back towards the alley is the roof line of the existing garage.
One important thing to note here is the property does not go all the way to the alley.
That's right, we'll see that on the ILC later in the presentation as well. The lot is on a significant north or south to north grade. The alley side, north side sits significantly higher than the West 8th Street side, which the main house faces. Technically, the Pine Street is a public right of way, though it is not a maintained street at this point in time, but it is still a public right of way. Throughout the decades, as I'll go through here and show on the Sanborn maps, secondary buildings have always been present in some form along the alley to the backside of the property and surrounding properties. And so I will go ahead and scroll through. I'd like to show the commission sequences of the Sanborn maps, the existing property. Right here, we have the house on the 1889 Sanborn map. And yeah, like an existing, a ditch that no longer exists. And then 1895, same home exists on these two lots. 1937, you just notice that there's change and evolution of secondary buildings along the back of the property. And then we'll end here with the outline C, which shows that this property does not go straight back to the alley. There's a little bit of a peninsula off of the adjacent property where these buildings may have been. Staff has conducted a voluntary review of our zoning code for compliance. And basically everything here to note is that everything complies. There is in regard to the setback in our code of ordinances that staff has added a condition of approval that the applicant shall submit and receive staff approval for a lot consolidation application and the record of a lot consolidation plat. This way, the lot line goes down the middle of the property will then be consolidated, so all setbacks are obeyed. And the next element regarding to the zoning code is the maximum building height for this type of residence in the R2 district is 35 feet. The proposed height of this building is 27 feet. I will come back to why this point is relevant as we move on in this meeting. I've included in this packet an evaluation of the applicable code criteria for historic preservation or historic district. This site does qualify as a modification substantial, as it does include additions, is a structure that increases the floor area of existing occupied space. There are 3 applicable code criteria under the main 1744-060 for issuing a certificate of appropriateness. The first code is to enhance the district. The second element is maintaining overall character, and the third element in this code is specific compatibility into neighboring areas. The idea of this garage and ADU addition is wonderful. Staff finds that this is almost exactly a model for redevelopment and additions to properties within the historic structure that the city should support. ADUs are one of the solutions to the local housing crisis, and staff finds this proposed project is a great balance of adding additional housing without compromising the character of the existing historic primary residence or context of the site. The ADU addition is proposed in the rear of the property so as to not affect the interpretation of the primary historic structure from west to 8th and its right of way. Additions maintains local character but not altering primary historic structure. The proposed ADU is specified to feature traditional building forms and materials such as corrugated metal, board and batten, eagle lap, bird box, and the peak of the table. These raw materials that have been found throughout the historic district and the period of significance. The windows and pedestrian doors that are proposed are traditional sizes. Staff does not have any concerns with the proposed garage doors, as this feature is at the back of the property. It does not interrupt the historical street. The staff has added a condition of approval that prior to issuance of the building permit, the window and door materials shall be specified on the final plans and approved by staff, as we just do not have those specified, and we just would like to see those.
And one thing I'll jump in and say here, just in terms of context is, so right now, we are passing, we're expecting a code amendment to pass this summer. It'll go through planning, zoning commission, city council. that will, in the zoning code, will, make the zoning code more permissive for accessory dwelling units. There's a density calculation in the zoning code that planning and zoning commission, city council and staff have to work with. And essentially that in the code is proposed to increase that density calculation so that all the small historical lots in Leadville, 25 foot by 120 or 125 foot wide lots, all of those lots can have 2 units. So either a single family house and an accessory dwelling unit, or a duplex. So if someone's doing new construction, it's in the historic district, they still have to go through for a COA. But our point being is that our code, the expectation is that it is going to become more permissive for accessory dwelling units. So since the historic district code amendments passed last summer in August, that require COAs for modifications to buildings, so whether it is a detached ADU or an attached ADU, any kind of addition or accessory dwelling unit we'd still have to come in through a COA, but we're more likely to see these type of applications because of the zoning code modifications that would allow 2 dwelling units on each property. So as we're reviewing this application, just kind of think about that in the kind of context of this upcoming code amendment. And this might be, one of the first ADU addition applications that we've seen under our new code amendment. We might see a lot more of those because of the upcoming zoning code that we encourage you to use. Just kind of think about that in this context of this application.
Thank you for that addition, Chapin. Moving on with the analysis on the site, I also reviewed the Secretary of the Interior guidelines, just for further context on how to make the determination for an additional building in a historical site with a historical building. Some of the guidelines I'm just going to breeze over pretty quickly as everything applies. The new addition is a secondary non-character defining elevation. And it's set back, from view of the main road. There is no loss of historic materials. So it complies with that element. The addition, in this case, the ADU is subordinate and secondary to the historic building and is compatible with mass scale size. It doesn't overwhelm the back of the site. The same forms and materials are used. The windows and door openings are in match relation to the main house. And the only thing that we have comments with is ADU is not one of the main site. It is it is a distinguished addition from the original building, but it is set back from the main wall plane of the existing home, in this case behind the main home. And then the only element that we found that this building did not comply with in regards to the Secretary of the Interior guidelines is designing a new addition that is compatible with the historic building. Compatibility is determined by a variety of factors, including massing, height, form, and materials. Staff finds that the proposed addition on the garage is compatible, except for the pitch of the roof. The roof, as it is on the proposed design, does not match the roof pitches for the historic home or the roof pitches in the neighboring properties that have historic buildings. 10-12 roof pitch or 12-12 pitch is what's more common. And for those of you who may not be familiar with what all these numbers mean, 512 means for every 12 inches of run, you have 5 inches of rise. So that's fairly low grade, and you can see it on the plans that we have up there. The pitch is pretty low. The standard Victorian roof pitch is more 10-12 or 12-12, meaning for every 12 inches of run, you have 10 or 12 inches of rise.
So just one of the questions that we have for you tonight, is, staff is generally recommending approval of the project, but we do have a question on roof pitch. So kind of what Alex has noted here is that there is, in our code section is regarding specific compatibility and general compatibility. And then also the Secretary of the Interior Design Standards regarding specific compatibility with the historic building. asking the question, does the commission interpret that compatibility section to mean that the roof pitch of the ADU should be more steep so that it matches the roof pitch of the historic residence? That's the question that we have for you tonight.
Can I make a comment at this point?
We'll state that for the applicant's presentation.
All right, sound good.
Let's see, does that complete the staff report?
And then the very final notice of recommendation, right? So we'll move on. Staff has evaluated the applicant and evaluated its application for compliance with the chapter 17 from 44 of the Leadville Municipal Code. Staff finds the proposal does comply with the required approval criteria, pending your input on the roof pitch. Staff recommends that Historical Preservation Commission recommends the City Council approve the certificate of appropriateness for the Ballroom ADU addition. Permit number PL 2024019, located at 220 West 8th Street, along with the attached findings and conditions of the approval. That concludes my presentation on the COA, and do you take any questions, please, at this point?
Okay, questions from the commission member?
Question, Alex, maximum height was 35, this project is proposed at 27.
Right.
You were going to address that, why is it lower?
So, so this is the existing building, back to that page, which shows.
Is the 27 feet, put it in line with the height of the front?
So right now, so we have 8 feet of extra space, beyond 8 feet of extra space to increase that roof pitch. So by increasing this roof pitch, it's still well under the height allowance in this lot, so in the RP. That's, thank you for the reminder. That's what I wanted to bring back to, is that we something push this application to roof height beyond the acceptable limit in this and on this lot.
But do we know if in the plans it was done at that height?
There was no 27. No. I think there, might not be much of a clause there. This is just a standard traditional way in today's building market to move forward with an addition. And which along with that, and the big ask of the commission to consider. You should move it.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah,
Yeah.
is there any thought of, is that as far as blocking anyone's view that lives behind him, either that is going to block views of mountains or whatever?
You know, I'm not sure if you specifically taken that into consideration, but I do think the site sits on a hill and that this garage and ADU do sit below the properties on the other side of the alley quite substantially, and beyond any further analysis, I would say because of that nature, it wouldn't be as much of an issue.
But the neighbors weren't, I mean, so that wasn't a consideration.
Oh, it wasn't addressed, I suppose. How else would you?
Yeah.
answer that, Chiefin?
It's a good question. I'd say, so we have more specific design standards for views under the design standards for residential infill, and that is a specific section. You know, you have in the Secretary of Interior design standards do not have any code criteria regarding views. You know, the closest that our code gets to that for an addition would just be regarding overall character. And if you were to interpret, you know, views as part of the character, then that's certainly a consideration. But I think as Alex mentioned, there are adjacent rights of way, nearby rights of way, and so there's some space, and this neighborhood is on a slope.
Yeah.
And so the combination of space of the rear alley, space of the adjacent Pine Street, nothing can be built in those. So that provides some setback, and then you combine the fact that this is on a hill. So I think that there's nothing that's I think that's blatantly blocking, you know, all of someone's view here and driving from staff's analysis. But it's not a specific standard.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And can I ask something about the ADUs?
Yes.
You said they're gonna. New zoning code where the more and more of these ADUs. Is there any, I mean, can those just be also applied for, you know, short-term rental? You can just build an ADU for short-term rentals. I think you mentioned it's a good thing because we need more housing. But if they're just short-term rentals, it doesn't really, doesn't help.
A lot of cities in Colorado have gone back and forth about how to regulate short-term rentals in general. And most cities are trending towards licensing as a way to address short-term rentals. The city has it kind of followed suit, has gone down that process. We had conditional use permit requirements for short-term rentals. That was originally how the city decided to address short-term rentals through zoning. And historic preservation, everything falls under zoning. And then the city, several years ago, put in some pretty extensive short-term rental regulations, but that was all through the licensing. So the STR licensing, there's a cap of 165 licenses within the city. The city council has reviewed this thoroughly and decided that is how the city wants to address short-term rentals. So we still require, and the zoning code still requires an administrative permit for short-term rentals. So we have to make sure that the site plan works. So if they're renting out a unit, make sure they have parking and access and all those things.
Right.
But in terms of zoning, the zoning code as of today does not distinguish between for an ADU between long-term rental or short-term rental. Both are allowed because short-term rental is regulated by the number of licenses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I have something to add on that.
sure.
There are two types, I'm not sure if the entire commission knows, there are a few types of short-term rental licenses. Town, one is type is the opposite, where they own an entire house on a property and then that out, so there is a cap on the first type where it's not owner occupied, and there isn't a cap on the second type where it is owner occupied. I don't know, if this is something you address with that, as far as not suddenly having.
Yeah, it's
The STRs.
right. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, someone could get an accessory, could get a short-term rental license, an owner occupied short-term rental license. If they're, living in the main house, they could rent out the second unit.
Yeah, although ultimately the use of these structures is not within our purview.
Correct.
The Historic Preservation Commission. I had a question, is it because this is being built on an existing garage that this is considered an addition rather than like a residential infill? Will future ADUs, will we apply our residential infill guidelines to the construction of ADUs as they come up, or will they be subject, kind of as we're doing with this one, to treating them as an addition rather than as infill? If that makes sense as a question.
I think staff position that we must, based on the current definitions, we must treat this as an addition, and an ADU would not be considered residential infill.
Okay, because there's already a primary structure.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then my other question was, we've talked a little bit about the slope and the roof. Given the slope, is there any concern about the massing or the overwhelming the primary structure, or is it far enough back on the lot, or the lot's just situated where that's not a concern?
I can speak to that if you're.
Sure, yeah. Flip to the information page.
Absolutely. So, as we did the analysis on the Secretary of the Interior standards, they did have call outs to whether or not it overwhelms the existing historical structure. And through all of those different steps and criteria that you can find in the packet too, it states that, if it's not along the main roof, the main primary plane against the street, if it's secondary, if it's, smaller than the existing building, it met all of those criteria to be smaller. And I think this would be a good point to just look up at the site, just to get the site kind of history in mind here. So this is the building before it went through its most recent renovation by the Bockelmans on West 8th. And you can see it is quite on a substantial slope here, and you can see up here on this picture that little garage that's going to get an addition, a second story addition here. But as we come down to the main street here, there's such a steep slope that anything kind of behind that's gonna be hidden by the nature of your vantage point
Oh, yeah,
below, because the street is below the first level of this building.
yeah, quite substantial.
Substantial, it's a substantial grade. This is what the entrance from the alley looks like coming down, from the alley side of the property. And then this is the Bottleman's most recent, update of siding. To the main house, which they do want to match all these materials for the ADU. So this is, been in the last 2 or 3 years that they've done this. So here's a picture of that garage.
Okay,
And this is somewhat from the vantage point of so right from the foreground of this picture is that public right of way for Pine Street, that is not a maintained street, but it is still basically city owned, so nothing will be built there, and it's, you know, creates enough space, as Chapin alluded to, that the structure won't be crowding anything to the alley or to the Pine Street side.
thank you. Any
Scott,
other
I've got a
question?
couple questions, if that's okay.
Thank you for-
Alex, looking at that photo right there, is the slope, and I apologize if you've said all this, it's very difficult to hear Alex on this, so just cut me off if you've answered all this. Is the slope on that existing building similar to what you're expecting on the ADU? Or will it be a little steeper than that?
The slope of the existing building?
No,
Or
on
the
the garage.
slope of the,
Yeah, is the slope of the existing garage the same as what's proposed for the ADU?
yes, so as far as roof pitch, I would say that the existing garage roof pitch is very similar to what the proposed garage or the proposed ADU roof pitch would be. And you can just see how that just doesn't quite match the Victorian like feel of the roof pitch in that area.
So the existing home roof pitch is about a 612.
The existing roof pitch of the existing home is between 10-12 and 12-12.
Is it really? Because it doesn't look like that from the front. That's not a 12-12 pitch. Not even close.
The existing home on the front is a 912.
There you go.
On that back shed, that's a 712. The existing
Really?
garage is a 412.
Right.
The front over the porch is a 312. So there's no, even on the existing structure, there's no 1012. The highest
Right.
is on the front, which is a 9.
Thank you for that clarity.
You know, in the residential infill design guidelines, which do not apply, you know, where we're interpreting, do not apply to this project. They do call out compatibility with roof pitches, and generally it says 10-12 or greater is the goal for primary dwellings. In terms of just new structures complying with our existing historic context. So that is, you know, one thing to keep in mind, but just pointing out that we do not have anything as specific, you know, in terms of these standards, that just the language is specific compatibility and general compatibility to a district.
Okay, couple.
Stuart, did you have another?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Stuart, if you have some more questions.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Well, first as a comment, I do want to thank Mr. Bockelman for the work he's done on his existing home. I walk up and down that street sometimes multiple times a day, and I watched him doing that work, and I think the transformation from what was there to his current house is wonderful. So I want to thank him for that work he did. As far as my comments or questions on the roof go, Joey, I think you asked this, but it sounds like if the pitch of the roof went steeper, it would still fit within height restrictions. But then I wonder, as you can see from this picture that's up right now, this ADU is going to be pretty visible as you're walking down the street, coming in either direction, especially because of the open lot on the east. So half of me thinks a flatter pitched roof is going to keep it lower and make it less noticeable from the street. The other half of me thinks that if it had the right pitch, it would fit in better. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that in terms of it being that much higher. How much higher would it be? And is that going to then just make it more visible?
Want me to answer that?
Yeah, is that a question for Joey or for staff or?
Can I make a
yeah,
comment
yeah.
at this point? Might help clarification.
You might have to make this presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's just see if any other commissioners have burning questions, or, and then we could shift it to applicant presentation.
sure. Are there any other questions or should we go forward with applicants? Okay, let's move on to the applicant presentation. So Mr. Buckland, if you would like to go ahead and present to help clarify all these questions that keep cropping up, that would be wonderful.
Well, I do appreciate the comment of the one board member there that of the building and remodeling. We put our heart into that building. We bought it in 2019. By all rights, that building should have been tore down. And that's the original structure was tipping point, whether it should have been bulldozed down or restored. And we decided to restore it because we didn't want to lose the piece of history there. So that was done in 2019. A clarification on the garage. The garage, I know you said probably built in the 40s or so. As far as I can tell, the garage was actually built somewhere in the late 70s or 80s. The foundation is actually a poured foundation with an actual footing under it, just like modern. And what a couple other clues that really let me know that it's built probably that time period. It actually has J bolts in it, which concrete anchors in it, which that was a more modern feature, the J bolts that connect the sill plates down. It has a actual treated sill plate in it. And I believe if I remember right, the studs are even marked like 1980 on the studs, the exposed studs. So they're not the old style rough cut studs like the house was, but they were modern pre-cut studs. So by all rights, I think the building was actually, and it has trusses on it. It actually has trusses inside the building instead of stick frame. So that's the structure there. Sarah Dallas, when we did the original building, she talked even back then about lot consolidation. So I wasn't, that's not new to me. I knew that she was just overwhelmed with so much work to do that she couldn't get around to it. So she said, yeah, somewhere down the line, we need to do lots of consolidation. So that's not neither here nor there. Couple other things, Chapin had mentioned one time on the west and the north side of the building, we had all metal siding on those sides. At that time, we just thought, just because it's really not in any view, that would just go all metal on those sides. But after thinking about it, I think we should keep the characteristic with metal on the bottom and batten board on the tops of both those sides. So that would be a change that I'd like to do. Just it makes no difference to me how it's constructed on that side. It doesn't complicate the construction process at all. So that's not a problem. Now, as far as the roof pitch, I'm not against going a little higher. The original roof pitch was a 4. If you look at pictures, image 3, you can, like we talked about there, they're existing, you can see the existing garage, but you can also see the structures in the back. You can see one structure in the back. That's not a 12 or a 10, that's probably a 8 on that structure. And if you go to image 5, you can look up the street and you can see many of those buildings behind the garage are in that range. But that's not, I'm not negating the characteristics. Usually in the historical districts, a single story building would have a 10 or 12 pitch. And the reason was because they're trying to tuck a loft, a second story up underneath the loft of a building. There is no loft in this one. We actually considered putting a 3rd story on the garage, but it's like, we don't want to make the pitch that high. But that's not what gave us our final conclusion of keeping the pitch a little lower. Our design was to keep to melt in place the snow. If you go to image 9 and 10, 10, let's start out with that one. 10 shows we're talking about that alley there's actually an easement from Bill Corn's property across the backside that was reserved to access that little house that's kind of to our northwest on the alley side. So I don't know who did it, but I don't know who actually owned the lot to save that easement, but somebody did. And so there's an easement for parking for that little house that's just catty corner right northwest of us. And you see in that picture, you can see there's a car and he's put up a temporary, the neighbors put up a temporary, like covered porch, or not covered porch, covered carport. And so that's real close to the back of that line. And then when we build the garage, the only place that expands is between the buildings, the existing house and the garage, where we put the outside stairs and a porch. So it increases 5 feet between the buildings. It takes that out. So by the time you put the porch in there, there's only about another 3 feet between the two buildings, the existing structure and the garage, the new porch. And we didn't want any, we wanted the roofs, the snow on the roofs not to slide off the roof and risk damaging either the neighbors behind as they park their vehicles, or the existing structure on the backside on that lower sloped area. If it slide off there, it could actually tear something up. So that was the thought. We wanted the snow to melt in place, right, and catch it that way and let it drip off instead of just slide off, because the utilities are right there in that area and all sorts of stuff. So, we're not against increasing it to maybe a 7, but I think even more than a 7 for one thing, and you get above that, unless you're really looking at the building from that way, you really don't even, I know if you get it too tall, then you start noticing it. But from all vantage points, other than walking down the street, because Bill Corn has a little vacant lot on his side of the one, and the undeveloped 9th Street, it's kind of tucked in the back there. You really don't kind of notice it. But that's the main reason, was just we didn't want the snow to slide off the roof and risk damaging anything. As far as let's see, window material, existing windows are Geldwin windows, just like they're using up in the rail yards or many of these subdivisions. I think what is it, timber something down south, a little out west a little bit. I think they're using Geldwins. Vinyl windows, we trim them when on the interior. The existing house is trimmed out in nice wood with period decoration. The exterior is trimmed out too, so it's not just a vinyl window hanging there. It's a very nice Geldwin insulated, thermal protected window. Let's see, that's all of my comments. I look forward to building it.
Any questions from commissioners for the applicant? Okay, hearing none, we skipped over advisory member comments. Do we have any comments from our advisory members?
And I don't think we did a great job of referring this application to the advisory members, so
Okay,
that didn't happen.
okay, thank you. In that case,
I think I actually did refer to Mark.
he's not here.
But yeah, but I didn't, I guess what I meant was I didn't, since Jennifer has been on, this application was already pending, so it wasn't in our workflow.
Caught kind of in
Yeah.
between.
Yep.
Okay, do you have any comments, Jennifer?
He answered my question.
All right, fantastic. In that case, I will then move on and open the public portion of the hearing. Do we have any comments from the public about this application? None? Okay, in that case, I assume there will not need to be an applicant's rebuttal. And we will close the public comment portion of the hearing.
And for context, there's no public hearing, written public comments received by staff, just to clarify.
Okay, great. So nothing in person, nothing received.
Correct.
Online or in the mail.
Yes.
Any additional staff clarification or rebuttal?
I do not have anything for you all.
Okay, then any additional questions or comments from commissioners before we deliberate?
Yes, I have
Okay,
a quick question, Scott.
oh, sure, sorry. Steve.
Just to clarify, I understand you are going to add batting boards similar to what's on the house on the upper half of the ADU versus having it all the metal material?
Correct, he was gonna do that all the way around the new structure. Metal on the bottom half and board and batten on the top half, all the way around.
That's
So on
correct.
both sides.
All right, I think that's an enhancement to what's currently shown, so I like that.
Absolutely.
And how that would be processed so you're evaluating what's in front of you today in terms of what's been submitted, but, if the applicant were to revise those plans when they proceed to their building permit application, we would just provide, the applicant with what's called an architect's statement of compliance. And it just documenting that they had a change between what was approved with their certificate of appropriateness and what was approved with the building, what they're submitting for the building permit plans, and that would be something that staff could easily process.
Oh, and I have one additional question I have too. You mentioned, Alex, that there's a condition for door material. Would it be appropriate for that to include garage door as well? Does door kind of include garage doors?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, in that case, we can deliberate and make some motions as appropriate.
The client, the applicant made mention of why to maintain that 512 pitch, and I think he's absolutely right. It eliminates snow shed. I would probably make a condition of approval that we use asphalt shingle rather than metal roof to further eliminate any snow shed. Hold the snow on top, make that a cold roof structure. There were also at the very top of that property, I know it rises slightly, but they were at the very top of his property. We're already gonna go up another 20 feet. Going up any farther than that, 20 feet is too much, but going up any farther than that truly would start to block visibility from the alley and the backs of the houses behind it. So keeping it low is actually a real benefit in this case, and eliminating snow storage is a real benefit in this case.
What about keeping the metal roof, but then using things to hold the snow in place?
Absolutely a possibility, yes. The asphalt in the lower pitch are nice because they don't require the snow dams, but that's an option as well, of course.
Yeah, my neighbor, I had trouble with things coming off my neighbor's roof onto my porch, and he put things to maintain the snow on the roof, and that was very effective.
Do we have a stipulation on the roof type yet? I didn't see it if we do.
They just proposed a metal roof. We don't have a, let's see, that's on the elevations, I just need to remember.
If we did do that, then yeah, having the snow dams would be.
Yeah. Yeah, here's,
Important, because even at 512, it's gonna shed snow.
It's just gonna slide off.
Absolutely, yeah. As soon as it gets a little bit of warm weather, it's gonna have a shot.
Yeah.
So. Maybe the applicant would consider asphalt back there, since it's not gonna be a. Primary visibility. Anyway, but yeah, the snow dams, I think, would be. A condition of approval if they wanted to continue with another. But I don't see a benefit to having a higher pitch on this particular one, guys. I just don't.
Just primarily because of the snow issue and the visibility, and you think that those considerations outweigh the desire to have a higher pitch that would blend in more with sort of traditional
The info guidelines would say 10-12 or 12-12 pitch, but there's not a single 10-12 or 12-12 pitch on the existing house. There's not even anything close to that on the existing house. So if you did a 12-12 pitch, it would stand out like a sore thumb and would not look anything like the original historic house.
One of the things that the commission should consider is you know, you have some design standards regarding compatibility. But you also have some design standards regarding distinguishing the addition from the primary residence. You know, which can be a variety of factors, but roof pitch, roof form is certainly a way to provide some distinguishment.
Yeah.
Determine what is historic, and what is new.
Yeah, that's a good point. Any other thoughts on the roof issue? Or on any other aspects of the application?
Make a condition of approval recommendation, just make sure you check out the applicant.
Do we want to have a motion or perhaps discuss the roof briefly with the applicant before proceeding?
If we do want to do a condition of approval, we do need to bring it before the applicant. Sir, is it if you were gonna stick with the lower pitch and you were going to do the lower pitch to eliminate snow shed, would you consider a quality asphalt shingle roof? Or are you pretty set on having a sheet metal roof?
The only reason I first put the metal roof on there was I thought, well, decorative, but at that height and that from that view, I don't think you'd actually see the metal roof. And the Timberline style asphalt roof would work better. Like you said, it'd keep the snow from sliding. Otherwise, you'd have to clip it like the other commissioner was talking about, put snow clips on it. And those break over time and cause problems anyway. So no, I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem with switching it to a like a Timberline style roof.
Your existing home is a Timberline 25, isn't it?
It's not quite a Timberline. It's just basically a standard 3-tab. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, the existing home is just a standard 3-tab.
Great, thank you.
That was it. That was the only good part of the whole house when I started.
Could we make the
Stuart, did you have
approval that the roof is either at its proposed pitch or higher?
I don't,
That?
I wouldn't want to go. Sorry, I didn't.
Well, that just gives you some flexibility as you move forward, so that you're
I
not
wouldn't.
from the HPC standpoint of having it exactly like it is. It would give you permission to go higher. Chapin,
Right.
we can do that, but
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I think that's fine.
Okay, so then. We would potentially do a condition of,
Asphalt shingle roof.
asphalt shingle roof at the proposed pitch or higher. Anything else?
So that would be just an additional condition of approval number 7.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Does anybody, I mean, I
yes,
spoke up pretty hard. Does anybody have a different opinion, please?
No, that's.
or any other reservations about the project or questions, things?
It seems very well thought out.
In that case, I would entertain, motion.
Edwards moves the Historic Preservation Commission recommend the city council approve the Beckelman Residence accessory dwelling unit PL 2024-019 located at 202 West 8th Street. Along with the attached findings and conditions of approval. Condition of approval number 1 would be,
7.
excuse me, I'm not following along there. Conditions.
Yeah, you can just add one.
Okay, I don't need to read all the conditions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Adding a condition number 7, which would stipulate an asphalt shingle roof in place of a metal roof, and have a pitch, as proposed of 512 or higher.
Rancone will second that.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a vote.
All right, Commissioner Franklin.
Sorry, was that me? Yeah,
Commissioner-
Commissioner Franco votes yes.
Vice Chair Whittington,
Yes.
Chair Spillman,
Yes.
Commissioner Olympus, I'm sorry, not here, Commissioner Edwards.
Yes.
And I suppose since Commissioner Olympus is not here, I could take a vote from Walter Flagger.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Okay, great. In that case, Mr. Buckelman, this will go before city council on July 16th at 6 p.m. And they will consider it and approve or deny. Thank you for your application. I do think that this is a strong project and potentially a model for future ADU development. This closes our public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Blackman.
All right, thank you, guys.
Okay, next item on our agenda is HPC picture. Once again, we are missing a couple of people, and so we will hold off. And hopefully at some point, get everybody here for a picture. And then that brings us to our final section for public comment on items not on the agenda.
I have a question.
Sure.
I probably should have said it earlier, but we haven't gotten copies of the minutes for quite a while. Are they going to start catching up with us?
We're hoping so, so I think a big part of this is Lori transitioned to the fire department. And that task for Al doing the planning and zoning commission meeting. Andrew right now is right in the middle of supporting the streets department. Because the streets department doesn't have their own administrative staff, so he's doing all the right of way permitting for the streets department. Once that is finished, ideally Andrew's gonna start helping out Lori with minutes, but Andrew doesn't have the capacity for that right now. And Lori got very busy with the fire that happened at so yes, so we're now getting a bit behind, but we know we need to catch up. But we have multiple city staff wearing multiple city hats for multiple departments, and it's not always going to be that way. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, will Andrew then become a sort of dedicated staff person or semi-dedicated to us the way Lori was, or?
No, I think it's gonna be mostly Alex and I supporting you at this meeting, but with some back of house support happening by Andrew doing minutes.
Okay,
Ideally, is where we're at.
yeah, because it's at some point whenever the CLG does their people at History Colorado do their review, I know we have to submit at least some minutes.
Right, and there's also the kind of the transitions, we're gonna. Planning and Zoning Commission has provided us some feedback that the minutes have been too long in the past. And so they want those minutes to be more succinct, and so
Okay,
I think that's the goal for HPC minutes also.
okay, yeah,
And so that should help.
sounds good. Anything else?
Stuart Franklin wanted to thank Alex and from us as well. Thank you. Very good, Joel, on your first one. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.
Very thorough. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, is there anything else? Questions, comments? And then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
May I just note that at our next meeting, on the agenda, we received a work session application today, from, sorry, one second. Bill from Cockroach, for the Manhattan building and for window, replacement. And so it's a work session application, that the commission will review at the next meeting, and that will be in advance of, his upcoming COA application. He's intending to, he has a scope of work that he intends to do to that building. That's broader than windows, but he would like to get his window, a decision on his window project this summer. So he knows whether or not he's rolling that into, he's doing that, how he's phasing that project out. So that will be, at our next meeting, that'll be the main agenda.
Okay,
Scott,
okay.
I was just gonna ask them, I've noticed there's a lot of good work going on around town. Can we still submit to you something for awards? Are you still doing awards? Recognition, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the plan will be, as in past years, for us to do. I mean, it would be too late for, this year, but we'll do awards in Leadville History Month, April of next year. But we do need to remember on the agenda sometime early in the year to put out a call for nominations for that kind of thing. Because ideally, we want to do them not only just for COA projects, but for sort of ongoing lower level maintenance to reward people or just recognize.
Recognition.
So
Yeah.
never too early to start making the list.
Yeah,
But the recognitions wouldn't happen until next April.
yeah, and if you start making a list, then that will serve as a good reminder to us and to put out a broader public call. For nominations in, say, February or something of next year.
Chapin, can you get the advisors' information on the Manhattan building so that they can do some research on what the siding used to be over the flat wood that's up there now and stuff, because that will really help inform the window decision.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't,
We could definitely use their input on that one.
okay. Yeah, that, we should receive that material, by tomorrow morning, and then we can forward that out. It sounds like Mark's not doing well, so maybe,
He's back in Denver today at a doctor's appointment.
okay,
He's just moving slow like.
okay, we can send them both and then Mark in China this.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a little bit of research done on that one before.
Okay, got it.
Okay, anything else?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Every second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission meeting of July 9th, 2024, adjourned at 5:15 p.m.
Good meeting.
Thanks, Dewey.
That's awesome. That was good. Oh, no.
You can be, for.
I'm gonna go grab something to eat and then I'll be back. No, it's good.
Okay.
Whatever we recommendation. So.
Yeah. I figured I like.
Yeah. Let's go. I don't think strong. It's slow, so.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay, oh, yeah. Absolutely. There you go. I personally like that. Especially if Mark's. It's genetic. It's good.
I think it's good.
If I didn't feel strong as about it, I wouldn't have done that, but I also sat for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, but I think it's,
I think. Small pitch affects the houses around it negatively, and it doesn't add anything to that house.
And that was a good point you made, Chapin, about the distinction, because we can always consider things like that and be like, oh, this is like. Keeping this different is actually useful.
right,
And the other, there's a second side to that, and you're absolutely right. The Secretary of the Interior standards want the additions to be obviously additions. And it
right,
would almost seem like if we made a 12-12 pitch on that back house, that we were trying to make that look older than the historic structure.
exactly,
But it would have worked the opposite direction.
exactly, yeah,
And we just didn't make that point. But if you were
compatible but distinguishable.
Right, so having a slightly lower pitch works and it works all the way around.
Right, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, we'll learn as we see more ADU
Yeah,
developments.
well, I think it's good. Now we've got our feet wet on ADUs.
Well, and
Yeah.
once a couple of people get these started, then we'll start seeing other people do the same thing. That's
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, my wife's parents want us to put one up behind our house.
It's 80 by right.
That's right,
You can have.
that's right. All right, see you all, thanks.